Well, thank you everybody for coming. Thanks to the huge crowds that are here. This is the annual budget forum for a recap of how we finished last year, 2025, and some information that we know today for 2026. So we'll jump right into it. Couple informational points of the team we have. We have the finance committee members. We have members here tonight. We have the chair, Councilman Vic. We have Councilman Drew Pecker, Councilman Mike Damagala, and Councilman David Kiefer. They are the Finance Policy Committee. They will be working with the staff, myself, the CFO, and the Assistant Administrator, and all the department heads as we formulate the budget for this year and giving recommendations. We also have, I've been here way too long, and this is my 25th municipal budget. Scott Olson is obviously the CFO, 26-year veteran of accounting and municipal government, and this is also 25 years of municipal budget experience. And Heather is also our assistant town administrator, 15-year municipal employee, but also is her 9th year formulating municipal budget. So, 11th year. This is her 9th year with Westfield, 11th year formulating municipal budget. So we also have at our beck and call, we have two excellent firms. The committee's already met with our auditing company to kind of get some details of how 2025 went, which we'll be sharing tonight. Slepley Clooney & Company is our auditing firm, and Rogan McCarthy is our bond counsel firm. And that'll come into play when we actually do our capital budget, which we'll talk about a little bit tonight as well. So we have a great team, a lot of experience here, and also some new fresh set of eyes, which is great. So we always start off this presentation just to remind the public and remind the staff and the members of council where the tax dollars go. We are the collector of the taxes. The town collects all the money. So last year, as this slide indicates, the town collected $197 million in change, not a small amount of money. Most of it, though, we don't keep. If you look at the slide, the bottom right-hand corner, that's the municipal tax levy. That's the only thing that the mayor and council have authority over. Let me repeat that. That's the only thing the mayor and council have authority over. The reason that's important, we are the collector of taxes. So we collect it all. We then distribute it to the school, the library, of course, and Union County. The library is a separate entity, but the library is a department of ours. And of course, they are part of our budget when we send it to the state. But it is a separate line item on the tax bill when you see it. But again, we have a very large collection in Westfield and a very healthy collection. We collect over 99% of our taxes every year. That's a very good thing for budgeting and, of course, for collection ratios. So again, we are 31 million of that is for our tax purposes. So again, another sort of reminder and a little more explanation on that. Our budget last year was $54.4 million. Just to make sure it's clear to everybody, 58% of that, or 31.5 million, is the tax levy, is the money we rely upon the taxpayers to fund our budget. The remainder of it, 22.9 in 2025, was from revenues that we generate on our own. And those things are listed there, things like construction permits, municipal court revenues, interest on investments, various license and permits. We have some franchise fees, we have delinquent taxes, we have state aid. So those are all the things that we have at our disposal, and the list might seem long, but there's not a lot of things we have control over. Even some of the construction permits, for example, we collect revenue from that, but we're limited in how much we can collect, and those fees can be set by the state of New Jersey Uniform Construction Code. So even some of the things that we collect revenue on are regulated by the state of New Jersey. But it's just important to note that our $54 million budget expenditures, only 58% of that is tax supported. The rest we support our own. And bottom line is, our goal over time is to try to increase our revenues and decrease the tax supported budget if we can. So it doesn't happen overnight, but we've been making small progress over the years. Again, budget for 25. This will be a slide in our budget introduction for the budget in later this spring in March when we introduce our 2026 budget. But as a reminder, where the money goes that we actually spend as part of our budget. So as you might expect, the two largest categories of our budget are salary and wages. We are in the people business. We actually employ over 200 some odd people, public safety services, police and fire, public works, of course, library employees, all the administrative staff, recreation employees, etc. So that's a large part of our budget, but still only 38.6% of our budget in 2025. For a people-driven, public service entity, it's not a huge number. The other big one is the statutory required expenses. Those are things like pension requirements, health insurance requirements, utilities, all the things that we basically get a bill for, we have to pay it that year. Other items are things like reserve for uncollected taxes. Again, as I mentioned before, because we are the tax collection agency, we have to then budget a thing called reserve for uncollected taxes. That's in case for some reason everyone decides not to pay their taxes. Guess what? We still have to pay the county and the schools their money, even if we don't have it. And we put this number in to protect ourselves. The number last year was $2.7 million. It's a protection. It's not, of course, enough to fund anyone's full budget, but it's in there and we are required to put that in our budget, county and school or not. Debt service obviously is very well managed. It was up, the total number last year was $3.45 million. Operating expenses was 12% of the budget last year. Capital improvement fund is 1.2%. There'll be more information on that in March about how that works. But again, this is where the money is spent in our budget. And again, salary and wages and statutory required expenses are the largest things that you might expect. So, and we'll have a slide very similar to this in 2026 for 2026 budget. Okay, so last slide or two for 2025. So recap and results. Every budget is its own puzzle. And every budget's a puzzle because a lot of things are just given to us. As I said before, we get a pension bill, we get a Railway Value Sewage Authority bill, we get a joint insurance bill. Every year those numbers are different. So in 2025, we had some budget challenges, and we also had some really good news in 25. So challenges that we kind of knew about, but we managed. Debt service was up $116,000, very manageable number. Salary and wages were up 2.63, again, very manageable number. It was about $540,000, which really covers contractual and non-contractual employees. Operating expenditures were up 7.1%, $447,000. Again, that's actually pretty good in the scheme of things. A lot of that is non-discretionary costs that are built into the department's budget. So for example, take the police department, for example. They have a lot of equipment we purchased there, and the support contracts for those equipment, we have to pay every year to keep those pieces of equipment up. So that's pieces of the puzzle that are non-discretionary. And then lastly, we had a very fortunate year last year. Our statutory required expenses were actually down. Now, that's, again, things like the pensions, health insurance, Social Security, utilities, the Railway Value Sewage Authority. The big reason it was down was health insurance. We are a self-insured municipality. We've had, I'm going to knock on wood when I say this, a very good experience with our employees. Past few years have had very good experience and very good budget experience. So last year, our health insurance costs were actually slightly down, which is unusual. And that was really what helped us. That's not going to be the same case in 26, unfortunately, but it's one of our things we were able to manage last year, which worked out well. Surplus is always a discussion in our budget every year, and again, I like to call it fund balance. But so at the end of 24, going into 25, we replenished our surplus by $5.4 million to start the year of 25 with $14 million balance. We then used in the budget for 25 $6.8 million to support increased costs, non-discretionary costs, and also, most importantly, what do we want to do to manage the tax rate? At the end of the day, the budget, the surplus is used to manage things we can't control, but most importantly, to manage the final tax rate. What does the council want to pass on to the residents that year, and what are we going to do to smartly not only help that year, but not put us in a future bind in future years? So last year, we used 6.8, and we left 7.2 in the account to go towards 2026. And we'll talk about what we actually did in 25. But we were hoping to replenish up to $12 million. We thought that would be a good replenishment, and $12 million in the scheme of things is still a very healthy number for a surplus for any municipality of our size to have. One other thing to mention is we continue to maintain our AAA bond rating. Very important. We do go out to sell notes annually. We go out to bond sales every number of years. And when we go to the marketplace, our paper trades very well. We're AAA, we get very favorable rates, and that helps, and we maintain that for quite a few years. So that's important to kind of just keep that back in mind. And as it says there, only 8% of the municipalities in the state of New Jersey have a AAA rating. And that's so, out of 565 municipalities, that's a pretty elite company to be in. So that's a very positive thing. So that's 2025. We had some challenges. We conserved surplus. We used some to manage the tax rate, but 2025 ended up being a very positive year. And we'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. So always good to remind the public how the budget process goes every year. We have a very streamlined, very good process which produces transparent budgeting. The department heads are involved, the employees are involved, and the council's involved. That's kind of how it should be. So a couple things to note on this slide. Long-term capital investment plan. We'll talk about that in a few minutes, but we always, by law, every community must submit a 6-year capital plan to the state as part of your budget document. We do that every year. And we do that every year. But we focus internally on a 3-year plan because that's much more realistic. We know we want to get done in the current calendar year we're going to do it, and we then can have some really good forecasting on what we think we want to do in the next 2 years. That can change, but we kind of really focus on a 3-year plan. And we'll be doing that parallel with the budget process. And then there'll be a bond ordinance usually in March or April that we introduce to do the capital stuff for the year. Department budgets are always, the budget is a living document. Even when this budget gets approved in April, the budget is never done. Myself and Scott and Heather, we're managing the budget, changing the budget, doing things, but we have to have a plan. So department heads will submit things to Heather and I and Scott late in the year for us to start reviewing. We then close out previous year's details this month, which we're doing now. And we meet with the auditors, which we just did with the Finance Committee earlier this week, actually. The Finance Committee, of course, plays an integral role in this. We actually meet with them. We started this past Tuesday. We'll meet now pretty much 2 to 3 times a week between now and the end of February, early March, to review all departments, meet with everybody, go through all the details, also discuss non-departmental issues, surplus use, et cetera. So that will go through basically March 7th. After March 7th, that process ends, and then we wait. State of New Jersey, their process is that they finalize their details, and they'll give every community their state aid numbers, usually by second week in March. Sometimes it could be later. New governors have a hard time sometimes going through that process for the first time, so sometimes we get late information. But we wait for that to come in, and then when we get that information, we plug that into our budget document, and then we can introduce our budget usually in March. We are scheduled this year to publicly present our budget March 24th, and then publicly adopt it on April 21st. Why those 2 dates? Those are dates that the state sets out. You must do things by a certain date to meet their deadlines. If you meet their deadlines, then we are aligned to keep all of our state aid. If you don't meet deadlines or don't comply with state rules, they have an opportunity to remove state aid from you. We've never had that happen here, but it's important to be mindful of those dates. So that's our plan right now. Unless something changes with the state or they get us information late, we would obviously introduce late, but we don't expect that to happen. So we have a very good process and working very well for years, and it's very engaging process. Okay, so 25 is over. We have the numbers. We know where we ended up. And we already have some challenges, as we always do, for 2026, as every year. So we already knew, you've been hearing it quite a bit in the governor's campaign. You heard it on all sides. Utility costs are up, right? So, and she passed a state of emergency the first day of office. It's tough for us as well. Towns are not immune to that. So we expect some of our non-discretionary costs to go up. Utilities is one of them. Health insurance can never, we've been managing it very well, but again, you can't keep it down forever. And so already for 2026, we know that some of our non-discretionary expenses are already up $1 million in various categories. For comparison purposes, those same non-discretionary categories we just talked about in 2025 were actually either flat at this time last year, and we know that they were actually down. So we already have a challenge of roughly $1 million plus to deal with in 26 as we go into the details and meeting with departments, which not unusual. Every year is a puzzle, as I said, and so we'll figure out how this puzzle works together this year. But that's just an important note. And some of those non-discretionary expenditures are things like, again, pensions, insurance, both health and liability, reserve uncollected taxes, our debt service, utility costs, and the Railway Value Sewage Authority. And so the committee met earlier this week. The committee will be in February adopting a resolution to confirm the sewer fees for this year. The good news about the Railway Value Sewage Authority bill, the bill is a very low increase this year. So the committee and the council do not expect to increase the fee this year, which is good news. Of course, things stay the same, but that means no new revenue coming in, but maintaining our current revenues for that category. We also are looking at, we don't have the numbers in yet, there's always increasing costs for various other categories, such as public safety, police and fire, and public works as part of that. Leaf collection is a very costly program. Obviously, people expect it, but it's costly. Same with the curbside recycling. And of course, conservation center services is a great service we provide our services have increased dramatically over the years, but some of those now cost money when years ago they might not have. So those are some of the examples of things we have to manage, but we usually do a very good job managing those each year and actually continue to provide excellent service to the people of this town. So again, we already had some challenges, but the story is beginning to come together. The puzzle's beginning to come together. We are, again, as I mentioned before, despite some of the challenges we just talked about, we're in a very strong financial position. We had a very good year in '25. We talked about revenues came in very well, and fund balance, surplus, we actually raised $6.4 million, a little more than we even expected. So now our surplus, we talked about getting back to $12 million as a starting balance. We actually got back to $13.6 million. So a little bit less than the starting balance last year, about $400,000 less. Still extremely healthy surplus to start with, and we are in very, very good position. So that fiscal foundation will continue to allow the new council to work on things that you want to do, prioritize projects, prioritize budgetary issues, and really have some flexibility in 2026, which is great. So again, we always kind of say these points is important. They repeated, but they're important to repeat. So next steps to this process, besides the budget we just laid out in the process, we need to continue to maintain exceptional fiscal oversight. That's very important as part of what myself and Scott and Heather do. The committee helps us with that, making recommendations to the council, which is important. Continue to prioritize public safety, very important. And we know we've been hearing things about things going on in the community. The police do a phenomenal job, so does the fire department, but we need to continue to prioritize that. In addition to that, enhancing town parks, recreational opportunities. Both Heather and I come from the recreation background, so we will never let recreation fall to the bottom of the list. But it's important. It's not just recreation department. It's library. They run great programs. Other departments run great programs. So we need to continue to make that a priority no matter what. And then lastly, again, all the key quality of life issues we're hearing about. You hear about them every day. It could be a snow plowing issue from this past week. It could be a road issue. It could be anything. All the things that we can do and the resources we have, those need to be prioritized, and we always do that, and we'll continue to do that. So basically, the next steps, we're going to continue on this process after tonight, and then seek public input. Tonight's meeting is to kind of give the update on that. We do have an email address. Well, excuse me, before I get to that, one last thing. Capital budget, we mentioned it early on. So capital budget is not part of the municipal budget document. It's a separate document, separate information we have. And capital budget projects are possible through the finance committee, who reviews these things with the various departments. The administration, we strategize on what the best things are, what we want for that year, hearing from the departments and request, figure out what we can afford. And then we strategize on how we provide those for the community in either this year or in our 3-year plan. The way the capital is authorized is there's a bond ordinance done. Usually our practice is to introduce the bond ordinance for capital at the same time we introduce the budget in March. And the reason we do that, it's a little bit early, but we do that because a large part of our program is infrastructure improvements, roads, sewers, drainage, et cetera. In order for us to even have a chance to get those projects done in the calendar year we're budgeting them, we have to actually authorize the money. We're government, and things move slow. Westfield moves them faster than most, but they still move slow. There's public bidding involved. There's ordinance approvals and adoptions, which take about a month or so. If the public bids don't come in, we have to rebid. And then even when you award the bid, there's timing, what's the contractor's schedule like? So road paving, sewers, drainage, the projects. If you approve a budget in March or introduce an ordinance in March, adopt it in April, you then have the engineering office have the chance to go out, maybe we're awarding contracts for work in June. That's early, maybe July at the latest. Then the work is actually getting done July, August, September, October, November, until the weather gets cold, asphalt plants close. So you're really limited on a yearly basis. Now, we've had great success, although our CFO gets nervous because we're spending the money fast, but we've had great success achieving the items that we're budgeting in the calendar year we budget them. That's important. It's not always required, but that's been our plan, and it's worked very well. So when we do our capital budget, we're trying to choose items in that calendar year that can be achieved in that calendar year. And so the budgets can be very tight, get done quickly, and then achieve those items. And then the next year, our plan is right there. We have it ready to go, and then we can tweak it accordingly each year. So the capital budget will be continuing. Public safety items, key factor in those. Stormwater and road improvements, again, key factor. Sewer and drainage improvements as well. and of course, park improvements, and there's many other little things too, but those are some of the big ones that we always focus on. And there'll be more that may come from the public, come from the members of the council, but the capital budget is a very big, important part of strategic planning of the town and making sure we're taking care of our infrastructure and public services. So that'll be part of this process, and it goes in parallel with our budgeting process. So just to wrap up, again, as I was saying before, we have this process here to let the public know how we finish up the year before, some of our challenges for the next year, how we do our process. If you're not in the room tonight, if you're not watching these things, you can go to our website. You can email us at budget@westfieldnj.gov. That address comes to the town. We respond to every single inquiry or request. We then also advise the public safety, or excuse me, the finance committee of those requests and the mayor. And then some of those things may lead us to obviously make changes or suggestions in our budget for that year. But it's a way for the public to connect with us besides coming to a council meeting physically and or coming in person. So again, I think we're in an excellent financial position for 2026. The puzzle will start coming together very soon. It's already started. And we finished 2025 very strong in 26. So that's the presentation. Any comments from members of the committee, employees, vast crowd that's here? No, thank you. Great. Okay, well, again, I want to thank the Finance Committee, Councilman Vick as the new chair, Councilman Pecker as the vice chair, Councilman Dalmagal and Kiefer. We're going to be spending a lot of time together for the next month. And Scott and Heather, all the department heads, Alan, of course, Maureen, who are here. But it's important that everyone's engaged and looking forward to a successful budget process for 2026. So thank you very much.